So all I need you to do is make lots of noise and have a good time, but I guess you're doing that already, so what am I worried about, right? All right. Have fun. Well, you need change for $1? That I might have. Nothing big. What a gorgeous weekend for us, huh? Are you ready? Tell me when you're ready. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome. Let's give a great big hand to the bands that have been up here so far. Let's hear you. Oh my, what a lovely evening for you to come and have a good time at the World Concertina Congress Jamboree Festival at the Addison Town Hall. We hope you can come and party with us. It's going to be going all night and picking up tomorrow at 8 o'clock with breakfast. In case you're still laying on the floor here, there'll still be breakfast, and it'll go all throughout the day tomorrow. A couple of quick thank yous here to friends making our broadcast possible. Hoovies, Harbor Hank, Romy Service, Roast Foods, Wolf's Bar and Hall, Terra International Bikes Cycle. We also thank Obermeyer's 41 Auto Body, the Senior Homes, Harold Krebs Roofing, Allenton Inn, and Rest Field Insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure it is to have these fine concertina artists all in one gathering here. They give me a chance to visit with friends and neighbors and enjoy music like this featuring Bill Landowski on concertina. Bill, what should we start off the radio broadcast with?
This is a heck of a tune, but it's me, my wife, she is drunk.
My wife, she is drunk. Special night to be out and enjoying the World Concertina Congress Jamboree Festival here in Allenton. And it's certainly a nice crowd out here in the hall. We've got music inside the hall here in the lower level of the hall. They're playing out on the lawn wherever they can find a spot. This is neat. The World Concertina Congress Jamboree. Tonight we'll be hearing not only from Bill Landowski and his crew, but we'll be putting Dick Rogers from Pulaski to work this evening. And tomorrow we're going to grab Bert Miller and Dan Gritzmacher, who's been enjoying the, yeah, there he is working. Oh boy. And enjoying himself all weekend here too. Did you want to hop right into the waltzes or do you need? Okay, let's do it that way. We'll just kind of alternate each set with a polka and a waltz. I like that. What's the third one? Here you go, Elsie. We got one for you. Elsie's waltz. Featured. Have you ever heard him play before? No. He gets better with age. Like good wine. Yeah. Oh, we're all getting older too, aren't we? We've got people ringed around the whole hall here. I want to make mention for the benefit of our radio listeners, we have made ample room available for dancers. If you're listening in and want to come and dance a little bit, there's room to do that. Have some refreshments. I see people walking around with ice cream cones and other popcorn. Maybe Dwayne will show up tonight. There's popcorn. And other goodies. What else? What are you serving? Oh, he's looking for salad. All right. On the radio on WGPM, thanks to the good support of friends from the Allenton area, including Hoobie's Hardware Hank. You probably know Hoobie Conrad. He's been making sure everything's going smoothly here this weekend. And Dorothy is the one that does all the work. Hoobie's Hardware Hank, where they've got the Water Boss water softener. Check that one out. Uses only 15 gallons of water during regeneration. Salt savings can be up to 50%. It's easy to install and have Hoobie's help you out. And we can bring in a sample, a water sample that is, and have Hoobie's check it out for you. Even if you've got a water softener, bring out a water sample, make sure it's doing its job, right? Yeah. At Hoobie's Hardware Hank and Allenton. See the boss! And that isn't Dorothy. You know, the water boss we're talking about from Hoobie's in Allenton. All right, we're going to throw the polka your way here, folks. Get ready with your polka partner and the Minneapolis Polka. St. Paul polka time.
Waltz here for you called Hangover Waltz. Hangover.
Pulaski. Would you like one more for Bill? One more. Thanks again, Bill. We'll waltz you out of here with Echoes in the Hill. Thank you. We appreciate the fine music. Looks like Rick Rogers and company up next here. And while we're getting the band switched around, we'll take a little moment to tell you a little bit about what's happening here in the back. We'll be back here tomorrow for about an hour and a half. At 1 in the afternoon, we'll be listening to Vern Miller from Push and Pull, the Vern Miller Band. Dorothy Conrad, hard at work here. I think she's working the popcorn, isn't she? She was. And Hoobie Conrad from Hoobie's Hardware. Made right here in the USA, Hoobie's Hardware. Hey, why don't we just, when we got a microphone, you can just give a quick introduction to the rest of the people helping you out here on stage. We'll start off that way.
Okay, glad to do so, Scott. Glad to be back here again. 1992, we were here last year and really enjoyed it. On the drums we have Mr. Roger Teresnik from Milwaukee. Roger plays with the band every so often, also does vocals. Roger also plays concertina too. On the bass horn, fellow that played with us for a number of years, also played with the Six Fat Dutchman. Bernie Hoppy from Fredonia. He listens to Hartford, daily listener, and our sax player, I'm going to have to ask him. I forgot his name. Don Mitchell from Milwaukee. Don. Okay, Don, it's nice to see you. Don helps us out every so often. Wally Banks from Pulaski. Wally used to live in Chicago, but he moved into God's country, into Wisconsin now. So he's glad to be in Pulaski. And Donnie, our good friend from Milwaukee. And yeah, play along with the band from Milwaukee on the concertina. And I'm Nick Roger.
We're going to have 3 going at once on this set, huh? Well, let's get her started. A nice big welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Nick Rogers from Pulaski. Go listen now. company. Let's get out of the doghouse, shall we? All right, polka time once again with Dick Rogers and friends, and the doghouse polka. Dick Rogers, Concertina Trio right there on WTKM FM Hartford, Wisconsin, a minute after 8 o'clock. If you're just joining us, we're live and direct from the World Concertina Congress Hall of Fame Jamboree. We've got folks coming from all parts of the country to be with us here this evening, and we're so happy to have you join us. And a big welcome to all of you. Is there anybody here from out of town? Clap your hands. Anybody here from Allenton? That's good too, by golly. It's nice to see the locals out here supporting it too. And Rubicon, who welcomes the dancers that are ready to go. see. I want to hold you near, but the world does spin me whenever you are near. Love the way you dance, want to hold you tight. I want to know that you love me right. I wish I had the courage like the other guy to look at you and the love light in your eyes. You could you say, like the dance with me, but I'm the answer. For all the musicians out here in the audience, and it's El Rio Drive Polka Time. Thank you, dear. Give me your roses. That's nice stuff. Dick, I was talking to a young lady who remembers dancing to your band at the Riverside Ballroom on Friday nights, and then watching themselves on TV on Sunday. Huh? Danceland. Danceland Ballroom. What was the name of the TV show? Dick Rogers Show. Yeah, makes sense. What are we going to call it? Cooking with Rogers? No. Very good. Nice job here tonight. Still cameras and still cameras going on around here. My goodness sakes. Everybody smile real hard. Stand up, turn around and smile for the benefit of these people so you can see everybody. Go ahead. Go ahead. Is everybody having a good time? Why don't you stretch a little bit and smile to the cameraman behind you? Just turn around and wave at him. 995, Allenton Special. Here it comes. Furious Polka, my request here from Dick Rogers and friends. from the World Concertina Congress Hall of Fame Jamboree in Allenton, Wisconsin, at the Addison Town Hall. Keep in mind the Addison Town Hall is in Allenton, not in the Addison Center. We're all in the township of Addison, and I hope I didn't confuse you. Right off Highway 40, Dick Rogers and Jim Stacy. The former owner of the Polka Palace in the room.
I think she is too.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can.